Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Michigan City Park Board meeting of Wednesday, April 17th. Can you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Shannon, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Latchford?
Here.
Mr. Freeze?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Here.
Miss Esper?
Here.
The meetings from our previous meeting on Wednesday, March 20th were presented in our packet. There are no changes, corrections, additions, or deletions. Do you have a motion to approve?
Move we approve the minutes as printed.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
All right, move on to the accept quotes for Millennium Plaza Landscape Services. And first of all, we'll ask if there are any other quotes to be submitted at this time from anyone. Seeing none, we'll close the submission period and we'll open the quotes that we have received. Attorney Pichardo?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have two quotes. The first one being from PR's Lawn Care out of LaPorte, Indiana. And this is for the Millennium Plaza Landscape Services. The quote from PR Lawn Care Incorporated is for the west slope, $23,977.59, 23977.59. The east slope is $13,614.23, 13614.23. The lower plaza bed and the tree planters, that's $12,497.41, 12497.41. And the fall planting is $3,785.83, 3785.83. Looks like they've included all of the required paperwork. The second quote is from Servicescape out of Michigan City, Indiana. And again, it's for the Millennium Plaza. Okay, in the same order, Servicescape's quote is west slope, $18,300. East slope, $13,780. Lower plaza bed and tree planters, $13,000. And fall planting is $1,640.
Wow.
That's not even close.
They also made a note regarding their quote, and I think that's something that maybe we can review with Jeremy. But it looks like they've added some notes regarding their quotes, but that's what they've put on their quote form.
I would just recommend that we table these to the next meeting, give a chance to review, and then we can bring it back to the board. Being the way that we broke it down, and then considering our overall budget of $35,000 for this project, I'd like to chance to review, make sure, again, with Attorney Pichardo, make sure all paperwork is there, but then bring a recommendation back to the board at your next meeting.
Thank you, Chairman. Any questions from the board?
Was that 35,000 even? Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
No, sir.
Any questions from the public? If not, we have a motion to let's see here. I think we should have a motion to accept these quotes, and then we'll have a motion to. Well, let's just go with the motion. Do we have a motion to accept the quotes for Millennium Park Plaza?
I so move.
Good second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
from this point, I think we'll take the recommendation from the superintendent to allow adequate time to review quotes, and they can bring a recommendation for the most responsive bidder to our next meeting on May 1st. All right, we'll move on to, well, unless that needs a form of a motion and approval. Probably not. For sake of clarity, sure. We have a motion to allow the superintendent and attorney to review the quotes and bring a recommendation for the most responsive bidder to our next meeting.
Let's so move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, move on to old business and the project updates. Jeremy?
Thank you. And regarding the ESG projects, that's our LED light configuration, and then as well as the some HVAC work in our facilities. I'll start with the Washington Park Zoo. We ran into some issues with wiring for the intercom or speaker system, and also the lights that were up at the observation tower. And it was due to, we believe, rodents over time had ate through the wires. So when they did this project, they were anticipating hooking into the current electrical system that was in place, or the infrastructure, and that has proved not to be the best way to go about it. So they're in the process of replacing some of the wiring to make sure the system is up and running and adequate. And then that should conclude all the work that is being that is taking place at the zoo. Golf course is completely finished with all the work there. Was mainly just some lighting and some bulb replacement. Park maintenance facility next week will begin the big project there at the park maintenance department, which will only last about a week. Memorial Hall, they just had to energize or get up and running 2 condenser units. So that was just the last remaining items there, and they should be done hopefully tomorrow. And then in regards to the Michigan City Senior Center, we will be closing the operation of the Michigan City Senior Center the week of April 29th to May 3rd. And that is because they will need the whole entire facility to get everything remaining completed, lighting as well as the HVAC work. And in this time, we currently have scheduled, as a part of this, there were going to be light poles, street lights that were going to be removed from the parking lot. And NIPSCO has notified us that they do have it scheduled for that same week. So we're not having to, tear up the parking lot a different week or keep it closed any time further than just that week. So as of right now, all is on schedule for that week. And then hopefully when that is completed there at the Michigan City Senior Center, then we should be complete with the project. The only thing that has come up over the course of the last week has we have run into some issues with the lights at Patriot Park. And again, it goes back to, if I understand correctly, the wiring and the current electrical infrastructure is not meshing with the new LED lighting. I guess to simplify as best as I can, we are now having issues where we are shorting out, specifically when we get rain. So we are looking into that further and working with ESG and Marcus Electric. And Andy Scout from Marcus Electric is going to be providing an estimate to fix the problem. We are waiting to see, and then possibly via change order or something of that nature to the City Council to potentially implement that into the project to change up that wiring and make sure that we're working in full go. But everything else, according to the project, has gone very well. So I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that. And then regarding Winding Creek Cove, Phase 3 bank stabilization project, on March 27th, they reached substantial completion of Phase 3. On April 3rd of 2019, they installed the live stakes and containerized trees at Phase 2 and Phase 3. And then moving forward, the only remaining item they have to complete on Phase 3 are the 100 herbaceous plugs that should be installed in the next month, a month and a half, and I will hand down. This is Phase 2 and Phase 3, some of the work. It's absolutely stunning, very beautiful. We're very happy with the project. And then other than on Phase 2, the only thing left is just the warranty on the plants when they're completely done with those plantings. So I said other than the warranty, they are completely done. Sorry, I want to make sure I stated that correctly. So again, project gone very well. Absolutely happy with the result and the way it looks, and then just the use of it. I think is going to be very very beneficial to those that specifically go down to fish or want to launch a kayak of that nature down there in that park. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend hiking down there in Winding Creek Cove and seeing those two projects because they're just absolutely outstanding. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have regarding those two projects.
Is that officially opened out to the public?
Yes. Yes, it is open to the public.
Thank you, Jeremy. You almost have to see these pictures to really grasp the
Thank
amount
you
of
for
work that was
providing
done.
them.
Yeah, boy, that's nice.
Now, there was a kayak launch there?
Yeah.
Is there a
That pole's
kayak
almost
launch
ready.
there? Or
This-
what kind of-
There are pads basically
Okay.
you can launch from. It's not what I would consider a launch
Okay.
in my own mind, but kayakers might have a different terminology on that. But it's a pad that you can get into the water from.
All right. Thank you.
It would be quite a portage to get your kayak there, I do believe, though, right? How far?
It's not that bad. I mean, it just depends on what all you're hauling with you, I guess. But it's a little bit down the path to get there. I'm not even really sure. I mean, a quarter mile maybe.
Okay.
On the one path, maybe.
I don't think it's that long, I really
Probably
don't.
not even that long.
But yeah, the work looks beautiful. Absolutely, absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you, Jeremy. We'll move on to tabled business if there is any.
No, sir.
Thank you. The new business, the first item is the utility easement for 1400 Lakeshore Drive.
Yes, and we have Mr. Newman here this evening to address the board and explain a little bit about the project. You do have the proposal and all the information that he did provide, as well as the potential agreement if the board so does is so inclined this evening to enter into that Attorney Pichardo has put together for you. So with that, Mr. Newman, allow you the opportunity to address the board, explain the project, and then if there are any questions, obviously we can continue from there.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. As background, my property is 1400A Lakeshore Drive. It's part of a
Excuse me,
lot.
just for the record, just your name.
My name is Michael Newman.
Thank you.
This lot was divided a long time ago along the north-south axis. 1400 is at Lakeshore Drive level, and I'm down on the lakeside at 1400A. The nature of the lot is there's an 8-foot wide concrete driveway at the top for access to parking, and an 8-foot wide concrete walkway at the bottom for access to the beach. This driveway is very steep. It drops about 10 to 12 feet over the 120-foot length of the lot. During times of heavy rain, the water tends to run down Lakeshore Drive on the lakeside, tends to run from west to east. The nature of the parking pad and the driveway up top is it looks like a pretty good funnel, and that's what it does. And it captures the water and runs it down towards my house. The house that was previously there experienced catastrophic foundation failure. We replaced that temporarily, but that was central to our decision to knock that house down and rebuild, which we've done. Over the last 2 years, I've been in conversations with Michael Cuss from the sanitary department on and off to discuss different ways to mitigate the water problem. We've looked into several different things. Several months ago came up with what Michael thought was the best solution or what would be the best economically. Michael sent out a request for a proposal, got 2 proposals back, and the cost was higher than anyone expected. Michael described it as unacceptable to the city. It's certainly beyond my means, so it wasn't a direction I could go. Since the water flows to the esplanade anyway, what I propose to do is at the top of my property on this drive is to put in a trench drain and then to run a pipe going towards the lake, towards the esplanade. And I would like to run that pipe. I'm looking for permission to run that pipe approximately 90 feet onto the esplanade to discharge the water in an area where it wouldn't bother anyone. 90 feet may sound like a long way, but the property to the east of me for 50, 60 feet is lower than my property. So if I discharge the water anywhere in that sense, it's going on my neighbor's property. It's actually all Esplanade, but it looks like his yard, right? My plan is to do this at my expense. I have supplied a description and a drawing to Jeremy, and I'm hoping to get your approval on an easement. The driveway has been removed and is now awaiting a final pour for a replacement driveway. My house is 99.9% complete, and I'm looking forward to moving into it. So this is what's holding me up. This and, of course, the weather up until this point. Any questions?
Thank you for that description. That's very helpful to let us understand what the situation is.
If I just may add, we have representation here this evening from the sanitary district as well. If there are any specific questions to them, and Attorney Meyer as well. But we did meet on site with sanitary district with Mr. Newman, and from my standpoint, I would recommend the board moving forward and allowing Mr. Newman to do this project. I think one thing to make sure that it's made clear is that once the project is done, the site will be restored. As far as any plantings of dune grass or anything of that nature. So once all is said and done, you would never know that this pipe is underground that is draining the stormwater. And again, areas of the Esplanade have this already draining to it, which is, again, in speaking with sanitary district and the powers to be, I'm very confident in the project and it moving forward.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Jim Meyer. I'm the General Counsel for the Sanitary District. First of all, on behalf of Mr. Cuss, give you sorry why he can't be here. He had a previously long scheduled family issue he had to deal with. Pretty much everything Mr. Newman and for sure everything Jeremy has said is accurate. The cost was like 6 times to the city would have been to try to divert it someplace else, further down into another catch basin. The odds of it being 100% effective were 0. The odds of it being 80% effective were probably about 75%. So this would be by far, from a practical perspective, the best outcome. Also financially, obviously the best outcome. And as pointed out, the water would go to the Esplanade anyway. That's what's north. As I understand it, I wasn't out there, but I know Jeremy was, that they walked out. There's kind of a natural depression where this pipe would end. So that's where the water would end up anyway. So we would strongly recommend that the board approve Mr. Newman's request for the easement. I'll gladly answer any questions if anybody has any.
I just have one question.
Sure.
He had mentioned that there's a substantial amount of water that goes through there in a storm, and you had mentioned this is going to drain into the Esplanade. So what I'm thinking is this will be something similar to like a catch basin, where the water will pool in the Esplanade and then drain eventually, or when the water goes through this pipe, it's going into the Esplanade. But my question is, where in the Esplanade does that go? Does it just pool, or what happens to it?
Well, maybe Jeremy.
See, I'm not familiar with the
my
area.
understanding is there's a depression in that location. Yes, there'd be temporary water in that depression, just like there is now when it rains hard.
Okay, that's
Okay, but it's, it's sand, so
yes,
the
right. Yeah, that was my
rate
question.
of infiltration is
There's no
rapid.
possibility of erosion or anything like that.
No, not if they construct it the way they're talking, which is one of the reasons to put it out the
Right.
90 feet to get it to the low area, because it won't go any,
Right.
it won't go any farther. So it won't erode anything further.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just a comment, Mr. Newman, I'd really like to thank you for thinking of your neighbor rather than taking the easy way out and letting him take care of the problem. So that's very nice of you.
My neighbors have been very patient through the construction, so I owe them that, and I'd love to finish this quickly for their sake too.
And you've done your homework.
I tried.
Yes, you did.
Any other questions?
I've got one question. So the difference in the work that you'd requested proposals for, how is it different from what Mr. Newman would do?
There would have been a need to tear up Lakeshore Drive for, I don't remember exactly, but it was over 100 feet to, well, first put in the trench drain, but he's going to put in trench drain as well to catch the water as it comes off the street. but to run a sewer from that trench drain to the next downstream manhole would have cost a lot of money,
Okay.
for most of which is related to the cost of repaving and redoing Lakeshore Drive. You know, because once you tear it up, you can't just do that little 2-foot trench. At least the sanitary district's process typically is to do at least half the street. And it was over $30,000 for a total.
And that was where you'd mentioned there'd be no guarantee that that would.
Correct, because when the water is running down the street, it runs at a relatively rapid pace compared to sand or dirt. And it can easily skip over the catch basin or the grate, you know, if not properly, if you don't have the louvered proper grates.
Okay. And then this solution you'd believe would be an adequate solution. And was the foundation failure due to the water running through that property that you believe?
Due to the water coming up to the foundation,
Okay.
washing out around the corner.
Okay.
That's the north side that collapsed in.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a couple comments if the board doesn't have any more questions for Mr. Meyer.
I don't believe so.
Just a couple points to make. I think you pointed out that he has done his homework, and I believe that is the case. He has had engineers and surveyors that have obviously guided him through this. So based on that, I think it's a solid plan. And also to put the board at ease, I've included language, it's in front of you, in the easement that says that we have the exclusive right to vacate the easement in case there is some concern. And I've mentioned that to Mr. Newman. He seems to be okay with that. So that's also in there. So if anything were to happen, the board has the exclusive right to vacate the easement and to be able to inspect the drain and come in to that area and to look to see what's going on if there's ever any issues.
Thank you for that clarification. Any questions from the public? If none, what's the pleasure of the board?
As Mr. Pichardo had mentioned, with a kind of catch-all or backup plan in that utility easement, and with Mr. Newman doing his homework and giving us a solution to this problem that wouldn't cost $30,000, I move we accept his proposal and allow the easement.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Good luck. Next item on the agenda is the Washington Park Zoo feline house design and engineering proposal.
Yes, thank you. And you have Mr. Scott Cookta here this evening from Haas and Associates, who worked closely with on getting this proposal put together. So I want to thank you and your team for that, as well as Zoo Director Jamie Huss and Councilman and Zoo Society President Johnny Stimley are here this evening. Councilman Stimley and I had a meeting with Mayor Muir several weeks back, and it was determined at that point in time that he was in favor of moving forward with the feline house design and engineering and potential construction. Identified it as a project that he would like to see move forward, and based off of our plan at the zoo, strategical plan, moving forward as stated. So with that, Mayor Muir had asked and requested us that we move forward with getting a proposal for design and engineering, which then, if accepted and approved by the board this evening, that we would look to go to the Redevelopment Commission for funding. I want to make it clear that funding has not been secured yet for this, that upon approval, and if receiving approval this evening, then we would go and potentially seek that funding. So I did want to make sure that was clear. And with that, Mr. Cookta, if you could kind of take us through the proposal, and then if there's any questions, we can go from there.
Welcome.
Thank you. Scott Cookta with Housing Associates. Just to recap, we were engaged by the Park Board in the fall of last year to do a cost estimate for this project. So it was to expand the Big Cat exhibit to the south, adding about over 3,300 square feet to the exhibit, which would include new 12-foot walls with kind of faux rock, naturalized habitat looking enclosure, including 23 new viewing windows, which is over 700 square feet of new exhibit viewing windows that would be from the current path that kind of moves up as you move to the east there. So it would eliminate the current entrance to that building, which has been abandoned, as my understanding, for public use for some time, and would reappropriate that space for the actual animals. So expanding the physical area for the animals as much as we can within that space that's available. So that work totaled to be over, according to our cost estimate, over $600,000 for that work. And so following up on that, per the request of Jeremy and the Park Board, we have put together this proposal. We broke it out in the fee proposal into a couple of different categories. One for pre-designed services, which covers a topographic survey that would be required for the pre-engineering, some geotechnical work for making sure the soils are suitable for the new walls that we'll be designing. And then we've also included some money for material testing for the existing concrete wall. If we want to proceed with that, there's a chance that that could be repurposed if it's structurally sound enough. Otherwise, in the cost proposal we prepared last fall, we've assumed that we just build a brand new wall immediately next to that one and sister it to it. The core of the proposal, the design and engineering services, is broken out into the traditional design phases, but the gist is $51,400 lump sum total. Bidding services, after that, if we want to proceed with the project, be $5,500. And then we've estimated $25,000 to $35,000 for construction services, which would include owner's representation and inspection services as requested and required. That's somewhat a flexible number. It's going to depend on exactly the scope of that final engineering set, and also the quality of the contractor that's selected, and through that interview, and then determining what staff the park has at that time, if they have any ability to inspect too. So that could range quite a bit depending on how much inspection services is required. But for budgeting purposes, we think that's a reasonable amount to start thinking about.
Thank you.
Maybe just for some clarity, to put Jamie on a spot, she's standing up there, so I know she wants to talk. If maybe, Jamie, if you could maybe explain a little bit about our current exhibit and enclosure and some of the issues that we face from the animal standpoint. I know we did a lot of safety upgrades, many safety upgrades, and we're confident in that, and I believe this is mainly for the viewing enclosure as opposed to a lot of work on the interior.
It's viewing, it's also
yeah.
enrichment. Enrichment's a big aspect of animal care nowadays. It's mental. If they're not mentally happy, they can't be physically happy. So the new exhibit, by giving them more space, hiding spots, perches, those animals will be able to feel more at home in their space. We want to also include a shifting cage inside the building, so we can bring these cats to this side without the use of sedation, which is also a big hazard and risk for the cats, especially with them advancing in their age. The boys are 15, the tigers are, so that's a new way of handling animals, not the old-fashioned way of sedating and putting them at risk of not coming out of the sedation. And then just for wellness checks. But we have done all the safety upgrades we needed to, including safeguards over the wenches, vertical bars, horizontal bars, so there's no reach-out ability of the animals. This is more for, since it is the first exhibit you see when you walk in, it is pretty small for the amount of space that those cats require. And we're kind of limited on what we can do anymore to enhance it without expanding. We put in perches, decks, a rock climbing wall for the lions, but there's just nothing else we can do until we get more space. We do have the Zach Auto Foundation trust that wants to help put money towards the project, because they only do cats and dogs. So we don't want to lose that chance of funding for even a partial part of this project.
Thank you for walking us through that. Any questions from the board?
Just, Scott, maybe for clarity purposes, I know before with proposals and then seeking funding, we have went for that funding for basically the D&E, the design and engineering services, but have not initially went for the construction services. The construction services would be asked for at a later time when we go to ask for the funding for the entire project. So I want to, just to make sure I'm clear, the pre-design, design engineering, and bidding services, to me that appears as if it totals $77,000. That would be the $20,100 for the pre-design, the $51,400 for the D&E services, and then the bidding services at $5,500. So I just want to make sure that if the board does proceed this evening and approves the proposal, that we're approving it in a dollar amount or in a way that's how we want to proceed and not have to. So it's clear, I guess, is my point. So a lot of times we can, when we go for the overall budget of the construction itself, that we would also include the construction services as a part of that request to potentially the city council, as the mayor has intended that we would go to once we receive this proposal and that estimation, construction estimate.
Right. So it is 77. Yeah, that would be the lump sum, and that's what we can. That's what we would commit to through this, and then yes, we can work with however you guys want to proceed with the construction portion. Yeah, it is just an estimate at this point. So.
When you say lump sum, is that the equivalent to not to exceed?
This is a lump sum. It is not a not to exceed. I don't know if there's a preference from the board on that. It is not currently structured as an hourly not to exceed. It's structured as a lump sum.
I think that sounds like it's the equivalent.
Well, it's different in that an hourly not to exceed is going to be billed hourly, and then it's not going to exceed that amount. So lump sums, it's going to be billed not hourly. It'll be billed, and that's the reason for essentially for the design phase breakdown. That'll be billed according to those design phases. That's how it's traditionally done. So when those phases are completed, you'd be billed $10,500 at the termination of the schematic design phase. Then you'd be billed $19,300 at the conclusion of the design development.
Is there any risk that we would be billed anything greater than what's listed in this contract?
No, that is the lump sum. Yeah. Okay. So that's a maximum. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just. The allowance is $7,500. That may have to be adjusted depending on testing recommendations or something in the pre-design. That's an estimate from us for geotechnical work and some wall tests as well.
Understood.
So, and we do have in the proposal that we would come back to you for that approval, particularly if it's over that $7,500.
Thanks for pointing that portion out. Any other questions? Any questions from the public? If not, we have a motion to approve the Washington Park Zoo Feline House Design and Engineering proposal from Haas and Associates.
I would like to make that motion. Many towns that are the size of Michigan City couldn't even dream of having a zoo. And the zoo that we have now is just moving forward. If you've not been there, I think most people here have at one time or another. But it's a beautiful structure. It brings educational material to thousands of young people who come through there every day. And it's an asset to the city to have it. And I'm happy to make that motion, and that is to not exceed $77,000 in the proposals at this time.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Scott and Jamie, for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
I move on to the Washington Park Zoo Animal Acquisition and Placement Request. Hello.
Hello, Elizabeth Emmerich with the Washington Park Zoo. Tonight the zoo is asking permission to retire our too many horses. One of them has a growth above its eye and it's kind of unsightly. We are treating it, but we think he needs more time off grounds for it to be treated with public hands not being put on it and whatnot. He is very bonded to the 25-year-old that lives with him. So we wanted to house them together so that it kind of be easy for both of them. When you separate them for anything, the other one goes nuts. So they're definitely best friends. So we wanted permission to retire them guys out together. We also would like permission to place one of our cotton top tamarins that got kicked out of the troop I've been here before for that situation. It happens. So we want to find a zoo or rescue that has the same premise as us to take it in. And that would be on a permanent loan. It wouldn't be for sale. We also are looking to place our baby Zebu. He's weaned now and he's ready for a permanent home somewhere. So he's considered domestic, so we are asking $550 to sell him to an appropriate home. The zoo is also asking permission to acquire another turkey. Our 13-year-old bronze turkey passed away from old age. That's pretty old for a turkey. So we want to replace him with another one, preferably from a shelter, one that's needing a home, of no cost to us. And then also with finding a home or being allowed to rehome the two mini horses, we wanted to replace them with a younger mini donkey or an mini horse. Let those guys grow up together at the zoo. Let the public enjoy them.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, any from the public? My only comment is you're always well prepared to give us a lot of detail on why you're suggesting either acquisition or disposition, so I'm very grateful and thankful that not only for the documentation in advance, but also you coming and sharing a little bit more with us when you. There are no other questions or comments. Do we have a motion for the Zoo, Washington Park Zoo annual and acquisition placement request?
I'd be happy to make that motion. Obviously, it's a necessity in this case to exchange some of these animals, and in the case with the mini horses, you have to look out for the psychology of them, and obviously a lot of people don't realize that it's no big deal to separate them. There is a big deal to separate them, and you're being very wise in what you're doing here. And so I'm very happy to make a motion to accept what you're doing here with the animals.
I would second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, move right on to the Chess Wizards Youth Day Camp proposal. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Abigail Cookta, Special Events and Rec Coordinator for Michigan City. I'm coming to ask the Park Department or the Park Board for approval to run a Chess Wizards chess camp. For 2 weeks this summer, the first week being June 17th through the 21st, the second being July 15th to the 19th. It will be, it can be either half day or whole day, depending on what the child and their parents decide. 9 to noon, or 12:30 to 3:30 for the half day sessions. And then the full day option is, it will be 9 to 3:30 as well. The fee is $188 for the half day, $307 for the full day, and that is for the week. They will register via our rec software, which is jarvisrec.com, and the Parks Department will receive 20% of the registration fees. Chess Wizards is they do camps nationally. They don't currently do anything in Indiana or our region for that matter. So it is pretty exciting. They sought us out, and they feel that it would be a good location for it. It will be hosted at Krieger Memorial Hall. And I think it just gives kids the opportunity to try something new or expand on a skill that is important. So included in what you have is their insurance and their letter of intent, and then I also have their hold harmless agreement.
Thank you, Abigail. Any questions?
Abigail, have they worked with the elementary schools here in Michigan City? I know they have a chess program.
They have not worked with, they reached out to the Parks Department specifically to do this as a rec program in the summer. They work pretty nationally with the parks departments. And I know the flyer that I sent you is for Arizona. They have them all over the country.
So you would be advertising through the schools, or
Yeah, flyers would definitely get sent home with all of the children, kindergarten through 8th grade, Michigan City area schools, as well as the private schools, to help encourage them to sign up, as well as Safe Harbors after school. They do a summer camp, so we would definitely be reaching out to the schools to help boost that registration.
Can I ask one more question? Would this just be a Michigan City area? Because I do know that there's an interest in LaPorte also. Or is it just a Michigan
No,
City?
this is expanded to anybody who wants to come. They don't have to live in Michigan City. It is a limited space. I believe there's only 12 spaces per camp. So that ensures that the kids really get taught all the ins and outs of it and get the most bang for their buck. But no, you don't have to live in Michigan City.
Thank you.
That was my question as to how many individuals will be permitted in this. I looked at the price, and the first time I looked, I thought $307, and I went, "Whoa, this is fancy chess." But obviously, if these people are gifted in what they are going to be teaching these children, and if there is a demand for it, and parents are willing to pay that, and maybe $307 is a fee that is readily accepted in this
Right.
particular area. I'm not that familiar
And
with.
keep in mind too that is for the full day. So that's for the full day camp. The half day is $188.
Right.
That's
So
full day.
So this is
For the
a
full week.
week. This is for 5 days.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
And it should be noted that the campers would also receive a T-shirt, a trophy, a puzzle folder, at least, so that they're getting some things to take home with them as well.
Any other questions or comments? Any comments from the public? It's great to see new programming coming in. We have the traditional stick and ball, but whenever we get anything beyond that, I think it's just a great enhancement to
Yeah, I think it's
opportunities.
wonderful, especially for the kids. So
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd happily make a motion to approve and accept this day camp to come to Crucial Memorial.
I'll second that.
all right. Well, thank you very much, board.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And we'll move on to request for qualifications for the old Lighthouse Museum exterior repair project.
Yes, and that is in front of you this evening. And the board recalls we had approached you many meetings ago regarding moving forward on a grant. And we did receive that Lake Michigan Coastal Program grant for $70,000 and received a city match from the City Council in the amount of $70,000. This is a $140,000 budgeted project. And with that in front of you, you have the RFQ, the request for qualifications. This would be sent out. And if I can just take a step back for this project, what we are looking to do is complete our exterior repairs of the old Lighthouse Museum. And this would include, they would provide construction drawing, detailed specs, bid docs related to the restoration of wood windows, construction of storm windows, construction of architectural pilasters and arches, construction of new basement entryway, and miscellaneous repairs including brickwork and hinge repair on the oil house and new eave and window trim on the workshop building at the Old Lighthouse Museum in Washington Park. And the purpose would be to restore elements of the exterior of the Old Lighthouse Museum using historically accurate materials and methods to preserve the structure well into the future. So, very important project. We have seen a lot of, I guess, good press and good feedback regarding the repairs we did this past round with the grant that was received with the city match. And again, this is something that is vitally needed for the future of our Old Lighthouse Museum. But with this, we would receive back RFQs. Hopefully, receive back RFQs. There would be a review process and a scoring process on our side, and then submitted from a team here, and then we would submit that scoring with a recommendation that the DNR would have to approve, and and then before we can move forward with contracts and things of that nature, that would then come back to the park board. But this is just getting this project started, and being that we are, this is associated with the grant, there are specific steps we have to follow outside of our normal project steps. So with that, myself and I know Shannon as well could answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any questions?
I only have one question, and I think the answer is that the answer is no. But the question is, with all of this repair work, this will not affect the historical. The Lighthouse Museum has that particular classification, does it not? That it is a historical landmark.
It is.
It has that designation, and so these repairs will not have any effect on that classification.
Correct. Yes, that is correct, and that's why the emphasis on the accurate materials and methods to preserve the historically accurate materials. So you look to match anything that you possibly can of what it was originally built with, and look for those materials. And I don't know if Shannon wants to add anything to that.
I'd just like to add that this grant does require us to get approval from the State Historical Preservation Office in Indianapolis, so they will review the specs. We will take it one step further and go to Indiana Landmarks. They're a nonprofit, but get their opinion on it as well. But it's our intention to keep it as historical as possible. It is on the National Historical Register.
So Jeremy, this process is a little bit different than we normally go through because we're allowing the bidders to basically come up with the specifications and all the detail for what work they're going to do. Versus normally we prepare the bid specifications and send those out, and then they.
I can answer that. So this isn't a request for proposals. This is a request for qualifications. So we are asking firms to submit their qualifications and previous work on historical structures, references. We will score those firms to find the one that we think is the best fit. Then we'll negotiate a rate for design and engineering, preparing the big bid docs, bring that back to this board. Then the engineering starts. So this is several projects that I've worked on. The trails are probably the biggest one. This is the process we use because I don't want to get proposals from firms that are not qualified. It muddies up the waters. The firms that are on this list, with the exception of one, are all on the state DNR's approved vendor list for historical work. The one that is not on the list, it's because they're out of state. They're in Marquette, Michigan, but they are a partner of the firm that did the last restoration work, and they asked to be on the bid list. You don't have to use DNR state approved, but we are doing that because they've already been vetted through their preservation office.
So it's not a requirement of the grant, it's just the direction that we have chosen to take with this project.
Correct.
Thank
And
you.
we discussed the process with the DNR, and they actually prefer this method than just going out for an RFP because anyone could submit that, and it doesn't ask for as much background. So we really want a qualified firm before we even start to negotiate.
Very good. Thanks for that explanation.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Is there any kind of a time limit that goes with the grant that this money has to be spent by such and such, or are we free to wait a while on that?
The money has to be spent, the grant has to close out by December 31st of 2019. However, the contract process was held up on a federal level by NOAA for many factors, including the government shutdown. So we would be allowed to ask for an 18-month extension. We've done that on a couple of coastal program grants in the recent past because of NOAA. They've taken a year out of our 18 months, giving us 6 months to complete a project, which is very difficult. So I would expect that we would ask for the extension and have the work completed by spring of 2020.
Thank you, Shannon. Any other questions? If not, any questions from the public? If not, what is the pleasure of the board?
I would move we allow the request for qualifications.
I'd second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Any other new business that we haven't addressed?
No, sir.
All right, we'll move on to the report of officers and the superintendent's report. Jeremy?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Last evening at the city council meeting, there was an ordinance on the table on first reading regarding no smoking in all city parks, smoking of any kind, including vapes and the like. And from that council meeting and that discussion, it was determined that the city council would have a workshop to discuss it, the entire city council, to my understanding, and include the park board in along that workshop. Tentatively, we are looking at a date next week. I'm Councilman Prespolinski. Council President Don Prespolinski has reached out to me for potential openings and dates. So I will communicate that with the board once I do have that confirmed from him. But tentatively, we were looking at Wednesday of next week at either 5:30 or 6 o'clock. But again, I will confirm as soon as it is confirmed with him. And I just want to also state that the sponsor of that ordinance, Councilwoman Sharon Carnes, did reach out to me several weeks ago regarding this ordinance and asked me my opinions, had some questions, what I thought about it. And me personally, I'm an individual who would love to see everywhere that I travel or I take my family or my kids to be a smoke-free environment. With that said, I explained to her that the difficulties of enforcement and policing that, specifically in Washington Park, 'cause my mind goes right to Washington Park when we talk parks, and explained to her that we currently have a park policy or rules in place for Patriot Park that does not allow smoking out there. Gardena Park for the youth baseball activities, as well as the zoo. We don't allow smoking in that facility, and then North Point Pavilion is another facility that we don't allow smoking. And even those are difficult at times for us to police and manage when we have staff right in those smaller areas. In communication, I understand that I've talked with Chief of Police Mark Swistek. He was not aware of the ordinance or had not had any conversations regarding it and regarding the enforcement. So I want to make it aware to the board that I did and make public aware that I did speak with Councilwoman Sharon Carnes on this, and I asked her as well to bring it in front of this board, have that conversation here. And I'm not sure, I did not hear back from her, and that ended up on the council agenda. So I was hoping that we would go take a different approach and we would have that conversation here, because I believe in years past from different things that have been brought up that this board has always been willing to entertain and listen to potential ordinances or policy changes, but would also have an opportunity to vet our concerns prior to going in front of the council as an ordinance. However, with that being said, the city council is who they are, and they are the body that they are, and they have the ability to do this. So I think the purpose of this workshop would be to vet all those questions and make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward in whatever direction that may be. So I think it's very important that if you can make it, and have that conversation and be open and willing to have that conversation, but also understanding the difficulties that it will present if approved down the line. So, but I do want to go in there with an open mind. But I did want to make sure that was clear to the board this evening, because you might have heard about it or received calls about it. I have seen people in passing that have stated some things to me, positively and negatively. So I just think that we need to be able to have that open conversation as a city and as a collective unit to be able to come up with whatever the best solution is for Michigan City and the Park Department moving forward. With that, I'll move on. We held a workshop yesterday. Shannon and I attended one. I should say didn't hold it. Attended a workshop yesterday in Portage Lakefront Park, and it was in conjunction with Save the Dunes and the City of Gary. And the purpose of the workshop was to share our best management practice and land management practices with the City of Gary. They have a lot of the same. They deal with a lot of the same issues that we do along our Esplanade, as far as social trails, beach paths, access points. They're trying to figure out emergency access points with emergency personnel and lifeguards, and they are very interested in adopting many if not all of our practices, which is very neat. It's kind of fun to have those conversations, but they're also in many ways different than what we are. So they have their own challenges. But it was great, very open workshop. But what's going to come from this is a Save the Dunes grant that is putting this on, and a part of that grant will be Save the Dunes coming into Michigan City, as we've talked about before, and having workshops here with our residents in Sheridan Beach, with real estate, as well as what's the other contractors. Sorry, contractors. So we can make sure we're all on the same page and that education is out there of the do's and don'ts of the Esplanade, removal of invasive species, different things of that nature. But the reason why this body, is no longer allowing the beach paths, things of that, because we're seeing a lot of erosions, we're seeing a lot of damage to our dunes, and dunes moving very aggressively. So it's just that information. It's very important that we get this same information out to our homeowners, to our residents, and to all alike. So be looking forward to that. We're looking at a May date of some type, probably later in May. And as soon as I have that information, I will let you know, as it'll be very important to have your participation at those workshops. Regarding the beach, we are in the process of doing a lot of our spring cleanup in Washington Park specifically. But as you know, we do build the berms, in the beach to help with some of the sand blowing into the parking lot, which does help. But we are in the process. Next week we will start seeing a bulldozer out on the beach, and that is simply for leveling the sand out and getting the beach graded for the upcoming season, so we can start taking our sanitizer out there and getting it ready for the warm weather that I really hope is around the corner. Up to and including, this does allow us to the opportunity to do maintenance to our emergency access paths. So we do have overgrowth and recontouring issues. If we do, based off of our land management plan, we will address it at that time. I don't want the homeowners to think, oh, look, there's other equipment out there. We can put equipment on the Esplanade too. So just for the public's notice, we'll probably get some information out to the public as well, maybe via press release or posting on our Facebook, social media, of that on our website. In regards to spring cleanup and getting ready for the opening of our season, we have begun to turn our water back on in Washington Park, and we have a potentially major issue in our Lot 2 restroom facility. And we have water coming out, and we're just not sure of the source at this point. So we're afraid it's underneath the facility, underneath the concrete. So or underneath the foundation, I should say. So we're diligently working on that, but currently our Lot 2 restrooms might be in jeopardy of opening at the same time of all our other restroom facilities. But we're hoping it's not too big of a cost and/or a project for our maintenance department. We have some other water lines that we, now that we've turned on the water, are leaking, so we're in the process of fixing those as well. It's a very, very rough winter for us. Speaking of North Point Pavilion, Washington Park, that spring cleanup, tentatively Sunset Grill plans to open their season for business beginning May 20th. And again, that's weather pending, but so there you're going to start seeing some activity there of them cleaning, getting organized, and staff ready for the upcoming season. We couldn't be more thrilled and looking forward to another great season with them down on our lakefront. Tomorrow from 1 to 4 p.m., Miss Abigail and I will be attending and working the 4th annual Michigan City Community Job Fair at Blue Chip Casino. Over the past couple years, I believe I have stated to the board how difficult it has been for us to fill seasonal positions and things of that nature. So we're going to go out and recruit very hard, hopefully, for this department and the entire city for that matter, and see if we can, we'll have job applications there and give people the information that they need and how to turn in applications and different park positions and city positions that might be available. We do have a list of those. So if you're looking for employment, whether it be seasonal or full-time, I don't know how many full-time jobs are open around the city, but specifically seasonal with the park department, come on down to Blue Chip tomorrow from 1 to 4 p.m. and we'll be happy to talk to you. This includes our park maintenance department for seasonal laborers, custodial department. We have zoo positions. I think you guys might already be all filled. You all feel, yeah, they're our crown jewel of our department, so they do everything well. But golf course, clerk maintenance, as well as our parking staff, City Kids Day Camp, and lifeguards specifically. So we are definitely hiring for the summer, and the season is fast approaching. Another topic that has come up several times is our electronic warning signage down in the park. I just want to give you an update. There is some issues with the potential directional bore or putting in the fiber that goes out, electric and fiber that will go out to the lifeguard tower. They're having concerns of how deep they can go down because of the water table. So we're looking at alternate options right now. I mean, we're going to have to bury at some point, but it might have to be buried and encased in concrete so it doesn't rise, depending on how it's put in. I know there's working with Andy Metanik on that in regards to the fiber process. So that is still planning to happen. We're still hoping to have that up and running before the start of our lifeguarding season. And then there'll also be the other sign that will be put up along off of the pier, right before the steps of the pier, hanging from the catwalk. So we still are actively pursuing that. We're kind of ready. Our big hurdle right now is just finalizing how to get the electric and the fiber and what's the best method for that. But I did want to let the board know that it is still on target and still, for the most part, on schedule. And we still hope to have that completed prior to the true opening of our season. And with that, as well as opening of our season, Washington Park. We will begin charging at the gate, checking stickers, as well as charging daily entry to the park Saturday and Sunday, May 11th and 12th. We will do Saturday and Sunday, 18th and 19th of May, and then every day starting Saturday, May 25th, which is Memorial Day weekend, which we historically do start daily. Now, those weekends prior, obviously, will be weather pending, but our plan is to open those 2 weekends because we're going to have good weather. So, with that, no vandalism to report this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you for those updates, Jeremy. Any questions?
Just a comment, when I read that proposal ordinance about no smoking, I'm all for no smoking, but the first thing that came to mind, first word I wrote down was beach. I think, and Shannon, you probably can remember the number, I can't, but when we have the beach cleanup, the number one thing that's cleaned up is cigarette butts. And I'd hate to try to put something in that ordinance that would be impossible to enforce. I mean, we get a couple thousand people down on the beach. Who's going to go around and tell them to put their cigarettes out? I saw it coming here today. I went by Pullman and stopped to watch a little basketball, and 2 of the individuals out there were smoking today at Pullman. Just during timeouts, however, it was. So again, I'm all for that. I just would hate to see an ordinance we couldn't enforce. And I was at Pullman Field Patriot Park last night to watch a softball game, and the fields looked great. We weren't there, it was still light when we left, so the lights weren't on. But the fields themselves, the infields, the warning track, the entrance in and out, it really looked nice. So that was my first visit. I'll let you know later. All in all, it looks good.
Any other questions for Jeremy?
Is it possible, and the lesser amount of signage in the park, the better. There's no doubt about that. I know the entrance to the park where people are taking money and checking your windshield, and there is a sign that says no dogs allowed. I would like to see a few more of those signs, particularly near the beach, that might just say no dogs on beach, because one of the things that really burns me is when somebody walks a dog down there and you have people on the beach and here is a large deposit of dog excrement, and that turns people off big time. I don't know if people would pay attention to, but I would like to see a few more reminders that's not anti-dog, but on the beach they don't belong there.
Yeah, that's something we can look at. I do know one of the things that was mainly identified through our Washington Park master plan process is how we have way too many signs. They all look different,
Yes.
and you kind of get the sense of when you're coming in our park to turn around like nothing is allowed here, which is definitely not the case. But I think strategically we can look at that. We can look at placing some. Historically, what we've also witnessed is people coming in our main entrance, walking a dog right past the sign that says no dogs. So again, I think it's similar to the smoking ordinance that was mentioned. People are going to follow the rules, and people are not going to follow the rules, unfortunately. but we even have issues enforcing the no dog. You know, just because we're not constantly out there, we're not down at stop 9 on the beach side. So, but to your point, original point, yes, we can look at some of our other access points to our lakefront. If something is, if it's not present, that we can look at adding a sign.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to the liaison reports, and I'm the Planning Commission liaison, and we have not had a meeting since our last meeting. So we'll move on to the Port Authority report, Mr. Freeze.
There was a meeting Monday, however, nothing that concerns us at this time.
Thank you. And Mr. Lang, the Zoo Society.
I attended the last Zoo Society meeting, and we spent some time discussing the addition to the zoo of the new construction with the lions, tigers, the feline house. I also want to mention I attended the Firefly Ball, and it was a delightful evening. The Zoological Society spent a lot of time in decorating. There was an awful lot of work involved in that. The food was good, the libation was good, and it was just a very enjoyable evening, and I hope that they decide to do it again next year, even though it is an awful lot of work for a very small group of people. But just wanted to give them a shout out there because they did a really nice job.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. We'll move on to the attorney's report. Mr. Pichardo.
I don't have anything to report.
Thank you. Any director's reports tonight? Hello again.
I wanted to present you guys with a director's report for our Monday mornings beach cleanup for 2018 as we head into the 2019 season. 2018 was the year of social media being littered by litter. Everywhere you looked, there were pictures of trash and microplastics and the effect litter was having on our ecosystem, but mainly our beaches. Washington Park soon became a beach that was getting a lot of attention on social media. There were people in the community as well as visitors who were not happy about the microplastics, cigarette butts, cigar tips, bottle caps, etc. on our beach. We did what we could to educate them on what exactly our sanitizer is able to pick up, as well as how hard our understaffed maintenance department works to keep the beach clean. Unlike most issues posted on social media, the litter on the beach had the public coming forward and taking action. Michigan City's Nora Rizka presented myself, Shannon, and Jeremy with the idea of Monday mornings, a volunteer-led beach cleanup every Monday morning from 8 to 10 a.m., taking place in Washington Park in June. The program was then started at the end of June 2018. The goal of the partnership of Monday mornings with Michigan City Parks Department was to join forces with our incredible community in order to care for and maintain our most valuable natural asset in Michigan City, the lakefront. Also, the goal was to lighten the load a bit for the maintenance staff by providing a bit of assistance with litter pickup once a week. We managed to make both of those goals happen and beyond. We began reaching out to local churches, businesses, and organizations to sponsor Monday mornings through providing coffee and a snack for the volunteers, but also taking part in the cleanup along with their staff. We watched as this small group grew week by week, as people out for a stroll joined in, as people who may not be able to make 8 a.m. on a Monday work for their schedule posted pictures of themselves doing their part to keep our beaches clean. We watched as families came and taught their little ones the importance of keeping the beach clean. We watched as the public posted all summer long about how great our beaches looked. We watched well over 100 volunteers take part through 2018. And we watched these volunteers realize what an impact they were making. It was really a beautiful thing to witness. Michigan City Parks Department offered volunteers free admission on Monday mornings between 8 and 10 a.m. to Washington Park, supplied garbage bags, disposed of the garbage, as well as had a staff person present each week. Several of the city department heads took advantage of beginning their week this way as well, and really enjoyed starting their week at the beach helping pick up garbage. Our 2018 season wrapped up on Monday, October 22nd. Here we are 6 months later, ready to kick off Monday mornings for 2019, and we couldn't be more excited. Monday, April 22nd, from 8 to 10, Michigan City Parks Department, Monday mornings, Healthy Communities of LaPorte County, and Alliance for the Great Lakes will combine forces to celebrate Earth Day at the beach. Every year, about 21.8 million pounds of trash enters the Great Lakes. Over 85% of the garbage collected from our Great Lakes beaches is plastic, cigar tips, straws, microplastics, grocery bags, bottles. Our stretch of lakeshore here is no exception to this sad truth. As commitment to be part of the solution, Healthy Communities of LaPorte County, Michigan City Parks Department, Monday mornings are excited to sponsor the beach cleanup at Washington Park and to kick off the season with a debris-free shore. So, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Any questions or comments?
Just a comment, I think it's great. I'm looking forward to being into.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful program, and cheers to the residents that
Yeah,
took it
they're
upon themselves to do something about a problem that they have.
Yeah, there's a core group of about 10 of them that are just exceptional. And Nora Rizka, Andy Johns, I really can't thank them enough because they have, like, week after week and really, even in the off season, continued to post and recruit and keep in touch and do what they can to make sure that this grows.
What a great response,
Mhm.
positive response to some maybe negative initial feedback on social
Right.
media. What a way to tackle the problem. That's a great one.
Yeah, it's always nice when people come forth with a solution. So, is that all? Thanks.
Thank you for coming tonight and sharing that with us. All right. Any other director's reports? Take it no. All right. We'll move on to Department of Finances. Mr. Lang.
Under claims docket for April the 17th, 2019, this is Michigan City Park Department. Total claims amounting to $158,256.54. And I move that we accept that claim, and I move that we pay that total.
Second.
Aye.
Payroll number 7, pay dates is 3/29/19. This is for 3/10/19 to 3/23/19. Total payroll of $46,135.49. And I make a motion that we accept this, and we do make this total $46,135.49. This is a motion, and I move that we accept this.
Second.
Aye.
Under gifts and donations, Northern Steak Incorporated, doing business as Holly's. This is a donation, youth baseball of $350. Edgewood Dental, youth baseball, $350. Members Advantage Credit Union, T-ball, $350. Albano's Villa, youth baseball, $350. Pendergast Agency, doing business as Allstate, softball, $350. Cobo's Ice Cream, youth baseball, $350. Triplex Plating Company, youth baseball, $350. I move that we accept these donations. That is the motion.
Second.
Aye. Under minor transfers, there are none. Under zoo endowment, invoices totaling $2,373.87 were paid to Lowe's for fencing, $1,500.19. Menards for fencing, $438.88. Washington Park Zoo Society fencing, $434.80. I make a motion that we accept these totals.
Second.
Aye. Under the Board of Works, nothing at this time. Under credit card charges are totaling $1,195.60 paid to Robert Brooks and Associates for dog key for park maintenance. Grizzly Industrial, $1,149.18 park maintenance. Again, I would make a motion that we accept these credit card charges.
Second.
Aye.
Thank you. I'll move on to comments from the public. Any tonight? Seeing none. Any comments from the board tonight? Anyone?
Go ahead.
Just regretfully, I will be at a mandatory training beginning this Sunday for 2 weeks. So I'll be unable to attend our next meeting.
All right. I think you'll be here,
Yes, I will be.
and Phil will be here.
I'll be here the first and have a good time in Hawaii.
Indianapolis.
Oh, Indianapolis. Okay.
Indianapolis. Nothing fun.
Yeah, I can be here the first. It's the next week.
So we'll have a quorum, so that's fine. But thanks for letting us know. Any other
I've already had my comments.
I just have one question. A while back, there was a talk of a dog park within the city limits. And someone the other day said, is there anything going on in that area? And I said, gosh, I don't know. And so they said, would you please ask at your meeting? And so I am asking if there is any movement in that area, or has anything been talked about. I know before, I believe we had mentioned that there is difficulty in finding land area within the city to have something like that.
So the Michigan City area schools and the city have worked together on giving up, basically handing us over land or deeding us over land that's right next to the in the open field next to the administration building. So that it just got finalized. We just received all the paperwork on that. Now it's a matter of trying to identify funding, design, things of that nature. What has in our conversation, what's been made clear from my standpoint is this. We could be able to maintain and cut the grass, but we don't want to operate the dog park because we don't have the resources to do so. Selling of the licenses or the passes and things of that nature. So some of the, administrative work and conversations need to take place in conjunction. But the plan is to begin moving forward. But I think it's about identifying funding and funding sources to move that project forward at this point. But the land that we believe and we feel that it's going to go on and is planned for has now been deeded over to the city of Michigan City.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? If not, our next meeting is on Wednesday, May 1st at 5 o'clock right here. And we have a motion to adjourn.
So move.